was always around the last week of August or the first week of September after Labor Day weekend, your mom announced, "We're going to the Five and Dime to get your school supplies." You might remember them as Woolworth, Kmart, McCory's, or your local mom-and-pop variety store. Your mom adjusts her shoulder bag and pulls out a crumpled piece of notebook paper, the school supply list. Off you and your mom went, sometimes accompanied by your siblings on your scavenger hunt through the aisles. Notebooks. Your school supply list usually starts with getting 4 or 5 composition notebooks. You know, the ones with the black and white speckled covers. They were no frills, not fancy, just pure, unadulterated learning where you did your reading, writing, and arithmetic. Of course, not just any writing, your penmanship, cursive writing. Remember, your letters had to touch the lines and not cross them. Many practiced their handwriting on the Big Chief tablet, with its bold red borders and generous lines, great for making tons of mistakes. The Mead Trapper Keeper was the ultimate school supply flex. They came in all sorts of cool color schemes. The Velcro flap, the flashy covers, kept everything nice and neat. Opening one made you feel like you were going to get a lot done. Your older brother or sister had the classic 3-ring blue canvas binders that reminded you of denim jeans. It got the same treatment as any book cover, covered with doodles and whiteout. Of course, your pages were always ripped out, so you picked up a box of paper reinforcement holes, little white rings that saved binder pages from tearing out.
It's got a security flap, see-through pocket, and lots of folders to keep you organized and together.
Pencils. Everyone wrote with the number 2 pencils, which you stored in cases, either in a pouch or a case, to prevent them from breaking loose in your bag. When it came to pencil boxes, there was none cooler than the roll-top pencil case. Just roll down the lid to reveal your neatly stacked number 2 pencils. At least one of them had the colorful triangular writing grip. Perhaps you had one of those Pentel Quicker Clicker mechanical pencils that you can see through with the refill lead, so you didn't need a sharpener. If you did need one, who remembers taking your pencils to the front or back of the class to use the manual pencil sharpeners? They were bolted down against the wall or table surface. No batteries required, no electrical outlets needed. You just hand-cranked your way to a sharp pencil. You checked a few times to make sure it was as sharp as possible. Sometimes you were overzealous and your pencil was nearly gone. Your teacher always had a comment about how short your pencils were. Pens. Other than the typical Bic pens, the idea of the 4-color pen from Bic blew your mind. It was the original fidget toy you kept on clicking. There was a special counter in the store where you never saw a kid. That's where they kept the expensive, fancy pens. Eventually, one year, perhaps you got it as a grade school graduation present, a Waterman or Parker fountain pen. It was shiny and metallic. You felt the weight of it, which was substantially heavier than any other pen you had had before, and it made you want to practice writing your name over and over again. Just as special were those pens with the digital clock. Very cool.
Bic's new 4-color pen. It's 4 times as much fun as a 1-color pen.
I wanted to have like outlines and I wanted to have different things in different colors. I was mesmerized by that pen.
Fixing mistakes. You all had the reliable Papermate Pink Pearl Eraser. It was nestled in the corner of your pencil case. Some of you had the Factus 2-sided eraser with the blue and red ends, though you never quite figured out what the blue side was for. It didn't erase ink, that's for sure. What did work was the Erasermate Erasable Ink Pen. If you didn't have that, you whipped out the whiteout correction fluid that always smelled like your mom's polish remover. You had erasers that came in all shapes and colors, including animals, fruits, cartoons, and toy robots. They were like emojis that you could pick up and hold, and you'd always check to see if they smelled. Who can smell the strawberry or grape flavors through this video? Some erasers were pencil toppers, and some were not erasers, but just there for fun, like cartoon characters, troll dolls with their fuzzy, wacky hair. Or how about your favorite character from Masters of the Universe? It made you feel like you always had your friends with you, and you were never alone at school.
These sort of t-shirt ones here. All these ones that used to come in little boxes. I really remember those, especially the smiley face one.
Arts and crafts. Who doesn't remember making fall leaves and turkey fingers out of construction paper? You might have started with a set of 8 or 16 Crayola crayons, but you always went over to the kid with the most who had the Crayola 64 with the built-in sharpener and asked to borrow a few colors like salmon, cornflower, or periwinkle. You had the old-school LePage glue or Elmer's glue. Who remembers spreading glue on your hands, waiting for them to dry, and then slowly peeling them off as if you were peeling off your skin in a horror movie?
You can make a ghost to take to funny puppet shows. You can make a spotted snake that grows and grows and grows.
Scent of a marker. Some of you remember the old-school magic markers. They were industrial strength. They could bleed through 3 sheets of paper, the desk, and sometimes your shirt. The Mr. Sketch scented markers had you popping the cap, taking a whiff, and you're transported to a specific childhood memory. The black one smelled like licorice, the orange captured the essence of actual oranges, and the cherry red made you feel like you were right in the candy store.
Other than the fact that they smell really good, the other great thing about these is that they're washable, so you don't have to worry too much about your kids making a mess on their hands or clothes because it washes right off.
Cartoon friends. Cartoons weren't just for afternoons and Saturday mornings. You took them to school with you. Everything from folders to book bags and everything in between had to have a familiar friend. The lower shelves had coloring books featuring Looney Tunes, Pinocchio, Peanuts, or generic animals and characters. Whenever a licensed character could fit on a surface, it did. The ultimate licensed merch was the metal or plastic lunchbox with matching thermos. Whether you had Star Wars, Holly Hobby, the Dukes of Hazzard, or strawberry shortcake, that lunchbox was more about who you were than lunch. Older Gen X boys might remember the Peachy folders. They were iconic yellow-orange with various sports illustrations. Most of you had the pick of the litter when it came to the selection of folders. Who didn't have a Garfield folder?
My Superman the movie lunchbox from 1978. Oh yes, people, you will believe a man can fly.
Tools of the trade. You always had to have Scotch tape handy to fix up any ripped pages. A small stapler kept your pages nice and neat. Metal safety scissors, blunt enough to prevent injury, but you were still taught how to handle them. Wooden rulers were nice until the metal edge would eventually pop out and you tried sticking back in. Some crazy glue would help. If they had a hole in them, you twirled them around with a pencil like a helicopter. The ruler sharpener multiplication table combo box was the Swiss Army knife of school supplies. The 6-inch protractor was something you barely had to use, while the pedigree compass promised perfect circles and was great for carving out your name on the desk. Stencils help mark up your desk and books. Book covers. If you had parents who valued education, there was no clearer message about your post-high school plans than buying those college book covers. You know, the ones with Ivy League schools like Princeton, Yale, and what is Ohio State University doing in there? Did your parents ploy work? Let us know in the comments. But if you had parents who were serious about saving money, the humble brown paper grocery bag would suffice. Covering textbooks was a sacred Gen X kid ritual performed in kitchens across America every September. You'd spend Sunday afternoon at the kitchen table armed with scissors and tape, creating protective covers for your textbooks. You'd draw out the subject on the cover along with some doodles. Math Whiz. Younger kids got the Little Professor calculator, the one with the cartoon face and mustache that made math less frightening. You got a Casio calculator after you mastered multiplication and long division. When you got one, you felt like it was a godsend to get the correct answer so quickly. You didn't have smartphones, but you had calculator watches, your form of wearable tech. Having one made you feel like James Bond, at least until your teacher banned it from class during tests.
I remember this when I was a kid. and I distinctly remember my sister having one and I wanted one really bad.
Bags. You might not remember this if you are a younger Gen Xer, but for the rest of you, you might recall those briefcase-looking satchels. They were either made of canvas or cheap vinyl. These were stiff and had a couple of compartments on the front with only enough room to hold your baseball cards. You could fit a couple of those black and white composition notebooks and a couple of coloring books. It had a top handle that made you feel like you were going to an office job, just like your dad. You were about to start the second grade. Who can forget the metal snaps that popped open when you least expected them, sending your books and pencils skittering across the ground? By the third or fourth grade, your books got heavier, and your mom knew those satchels weren't going to cut it. The JanSport bags were that perfect sweet spot between cool and practical, and available in your favorite color. If you had an older brother or sister, they might have gotten an Eastpak backpack, the one with the reinforced cowhide bottom from Sears. If your mom wanted you to go back to school in style, she ordered an LL Bean backpack by mail. Finally, you got some scratch and sniff stickers. You couldn't wait until the teacher gave them to you for doing your homework. Root beer, banana, cinnamon, some scents were heavenly. Others were offensive. Who remembers the puppy stickers? They were cool too.
And then the root beer one, it smells really strong, and it has that classic root beer smell. And it's crazy to think that 40 years later, these things still have a strong scent.
Checking out. At the register, your mom surveys the hall with the practiced eye of a woman who has survived multiple back-to-school expeditions. The total makes her pause, but only briefly, to see if it has increased from the previous year. You load your supplies into brown paper bags that will inevitably become book covers. You unwrap your new supplies and get them ready for the first day of the school year. It's the mixture of familiar excitement and terror that September always brings. Armed with your JanSport backpack filled with your new school supplies, you're ready to face whatever school will throw at you. As you go school supply shopping with your kids this year, you remember these memories? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, watch another one. Here's a video about going to Grandma's house in the 80s and 90s.